Hello! In this video, we'll be covering the topic and main setting of Statbot's automated role system called Statroles. Statroles assign and remove roles using a member's stats in your server. These stats include things like messages, voice activity, games and streaming, and even when the member joined your server. One of the special things about Statroles that make them different from something like leveling roles is that since Statroles use historic stats, they can look at those stats in a specific time frame to know who meets your requirements. You can also create or change your settings at any time and instantly sync your roles to reflect those changes. Statroles can be managed on your server's dashboard. After navigating to the website, statbot.net, click on Dashboard, and then log in. After you are logged in, you can go to your server's page either through the top left or top right navigation, mouse over or tap the server that you want to manage, and then choose Manage. On the sidebar, you will see Statroles, and go to that page. Here you can see that we already have some stat roles set up on the Statbot support server. Clicking on one of them shows us some actions that we can do. We can create a copy, which is an exact duplicate of this stat role. We can turn off or turn back on. Turning off will keep the config, but stop Statbot from checking or updating it, and then you can later turn it back on. Delete will delete the config and Statbot won't check the role anymore. Or you can also run now. Because stat roles run on a schedule, Run Now provides a way to manually run the stat role. You can do this up to 3 times a day, and it's perfect when you make changes and you want to see them immediately, particularly when the stat role has a long schedule, which we'll look at in the next part. Finally, we have Edit, which is where you will spend most of your time tuning your stat roles to be exactly how you want them. Starting at the top of the general page of the editor, we have Name. As you can see, this is display only and will be how it appears on the previous stat roles page as well as in the stat roles condition. Next is the Discord role that you want the bot to manage. Quick reminder that users and bots cannot manage interaction roles, so those like the nitro boosting role that Discord gives out, and also cannot manage roles above their own highest. So that's why you will only ever see the bot's own highest role in this list. If you don't see the role that you want in the list, make sure that Statbot has at least one role that is higher than the one that you want in the stat role. Last on the general page, we have conditions. These are rules or requirements that members must meet in order to get and keep the stat role. At the top level, we see messages, voice, activity, stat role, and match. Match groups conditions together, and if you were to add one, you would see 2 more. We have join age and account age, which have to be grouped with one of the other stat conditions. For now, we'll just use the condition that we have right here, which is a message condition. We'll look at it real quick. We have a minimum set to 1 over the past 7 days. This means that anybody that has sent at least 1 message in the last 7 days will get this role. If they don't send anything else over the next 7 days, the role will be removed. On the next tab, we see filters. These control what stats and members are counted. Starting at the top, we have apply to. You can choose to have your stat role apply to bots, users, or both. Below that, we have 3 sync filters. These behave a bit special. What they do is in their name. They sync the filters of conditions. In other words, they allow you to manage all of your conditions filters from one place. Conditions can each have their own filters, however, it can be annoying to have to change each one by hand when you know that they'll all be the same, and so that's why these are here. Channel and member filters allow you to blacklist and whitelist channels and members. Blacklist means do not include these, whitelist means only include these. A blacklisted member will automatically fail checks and will have their role removed. There's a setting at the bottom for ignoring members completely. However, before that, we'll look at the role filter. Because members can have multiple roles, the role filter lets you set both whitelisted and blacklisted roles. If you set any whitelisted roles, a member must have at least one of the whitelisted roles. They don't need all of them, just one. If you set any blacklisted roles, a member cannot have any of those roles. Finally, at the bottom, we have the ignore members list. Members in this list will not have their role removed, even if they no longer meet the requirements of stat role. This makes it so that you can have exceptions that you want to manage manually, such as guests or special cases where people supported outside of means that are easily tracked in Discord. Last but not least, we have the Advanced tab. Starting at the top, Permanent stops Statbot from removing the role, so as long as permanent is on, the role will not be removed. That said, you can turn it off at a later time, at which point the bot will take the necessary actions to sync members' roles to the requirements that you have set. So we'll start removing roles again. Send notification lets you send a message when the bot gives and or removes the role from a member. If you don't want it to send one of them, just leave it blank and it'll just ignore that. And then you can also, of course, set a channel. Schedule allows you to set up a custom interval for your Statrole to update. There are preset options to select from, such as 10 minutes, once an hour, every day, once a week on Friday. Those of you that need something more can set a custom cron expression, giving you maximum flexibility. Want the Statrole to update at 11:30 a.m. every third Tuesday of the month? Well, you can do that. Once you have the settings that you think that you want, we have a preview function at the bottom. This avoids much of the trial and error by giving a report of what Statbot would do if your Statrole were to run right now. The first is a list of members that Statbot would give the role to. The bottom is a list of members that it would remove the role from. This is required before saving to make sure that the Statrole behaves as you expect. As a quick example, we'll go to here and we'll change the minimum to 10. Or run preview, and we should see that a lot of people will now be removed because they no longer have sent that 10 messages, which is the minimum. So that completes the overview of the editor, but there's one more thing to mention. Now that we know a little bit more about Statroles, let's look at the real-time caching setting. Normally Statbot keeps a record of who it gives roles to, and uses this record to know who to remove roles from. Because this record is only about Statbot's own actions, it doesn't know if the role is given or removed by another source, such as an admin or another bot. Real-time caching adds your server to a backend service that keeps a live record of all your members' roles. With this, the bot knows when to add and remove roles, even when they have been altered by another source. In other words, real-time caching allows you to integrate Statroles with other role systems in your server. Without it, it's recommended that Statroles Discord roles only ever managed by Statbot. And so with that, we've reached the end of this topic. In the next, we'll go over all of the conditions and their various settings.